Alrighty then. Today we are talking about a very unique JoJo What If. And today we're going to talk about what would happen if Poco had became a hamon master. AKA, what would happen if Poco was in Battle Ascendancy and got to play a role in, the future of JoJo. So assuming after Phantom Blood, maybe he just decides to maybe carry out hamon. Maybe he found out what happened to Jonathan. He gets motivated to do hamon, and that causes Poco to go on his own adventure and maybe later on meet Joseph and help him on his adventure. And today I'm going to address what I believe would happen to Poco had he actually started hamon training, assuming he got motivated. So buckle up for a very interesting what if. But before I get to the actual what if scenario, I gotta thank I Am Someone Super Into Cats for requesting this. So here they are. They requested the video, so I gave it to them. I hope that you enjoyed the video. It's not about cats, unfortunately, because I know you're super into them, but I couldn't fit a cat into the story. So, yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, though, because you did request it. So, hope you have fun with it. But anyway, let's get to the actual story. So, this takes place after the events of Phantom Blood of JoJo, and Poco eventually found out that Jonathan died on the boat. I would feel like him and his sister may just go to America for some odd reason. I don't really know about anything about Poco's parents. I never got to do any research on him before I did this video, which is probably something very stupid. But I'm gonna say maybe they're dead. I don't know. But let's assume they somehow go to America. They find out where Irina is. And they also probably... Maybe Poco decides to learn hamon. Because Jonathan did. So he's going to go to Straitso. And Straitso will teach him some hamon techniques. And this is more or less going with the assumption that Poco can somehow learn hamon. It's very hard to say, since you gotta be like a very specific kind of person to know such a thing. But then again, it is possible that maybe Poco can do it. I'm gonna say for the sake of the scenario he does, but because if he doesn't, then he only maybe just like makes one-off appearances and probably just does whatever Speedwagon and Arena do in that part. So by this timeline, Poco is gonna learn hamon. His sister probably does her own thing. She's probably gonna help Arena with George II, who's stillborn, and also help with Lisa as well. I do believe that Poco would also help with them, while also training with hamon. So, in other words, he would be doing a lot to kind of impress everyone. He would be a hamon trainer, while also helping take care of Jonathan's team. I mean, not his team, but his kid and his family and all that. So I could definitely see him helping taking care of George II. And this could debatably lead to George II surviving, maybe? I know I have a lot of George II fans, so I think they would be glad if George II does live. But realistically speaking, it's hard to say for sure. Seeing how Arena didn't want George II to have any hamon-related stuff, it's hard to say if Poco would want to do that. Maybe he would honor Arena's word enough to a point where he believes not to give him hamon. And if we do go that route, then that would just lead to Poco probably just accepting that he's probably never going to learn hamon and just doing his own thing. So by that point, I would assume maybe George II still dies. It's hard to say. It just really depends on what happens. If Poco feels like teaching him hamon, George II could survive. If he doesn't know hamon, then I'm going to go with the assumption and say that that George II is probably screwed. But, however, after everything's said and done, whatever happens to George II, that's all up to fate to decide. And we go to Battle Tendency, and everything kind of goes through the same at this point. I think Lisa would leave no matter what. Even if she doesn't get banished, I think she would probably just look into the Pillarmen on her own. And I think Poco would probably just help take care of Joseph. And by that point, I could definitely see Poco helping take care of Joseph and playing a responsible adult kind of figure to Joseph. I could also see Poco's sister doing something in the story, but I really don't see her really fighting a battle tendency, obviously. She's likely just doing her own thing and is probably just chilling with Arena. I think she's done with going against the Cell Mask after that whole encounter with Dio, so I think she's done with that. Poco, on the other hand, he's willing to stop cars and stop all those people, so I think he would help Joseph while also being good at hamon. And by that point, I would assume the stuff with Strato would go the same. Poco's probably gonna eventually find out what happened to Speedwagon, and he gets held hostage by the Nazis. That leads to Poco being stuck by the Nazis, and if George II's alive, he'd probably also be held hostage too. So by that point, Joseph would try to break through. He still does the tequila disguise, and all that whole thing goes the same. Joseph versus Santana, but Poco's there to speed it up. If George II's around, he can also speed it up. Maybe Santana actually does die instead of just getting turned back into a pillar of rock or something. I don't know. That could happen maybe. But after that point, everything mostly goes the same. They're still going to meet Caesar, and they're going to have that encounter with the Pillarman. In my honest opinion, that encounter is going to go the same. I don't really think much would change. AC/DC, Wamu, and Cars, I don't think that Poco being here would be enough to defeat him. Even if they have George II, if you want to go that route, it's hard to say for certain. So that's going to be why they need Lisa, which she'll still come into the story. I assume that the whole thing with the filler pillar happens, so Lisa still shoves Joseph and Caesar into the pillar. That leaves the story more or less going the same like in canon, but however, that would probably just lead to some changes. Like, for example, the fight with AC/DC as a brain. AC/DC versus Joseph goes the same, in my opinion. And then when he gets turned into a brain, I could see George II and Poco trying to help. That could actually speed up the fight. It's hard to say. It just depends if George II is still alive. I don't know. I'm more or less going with a route where he's still alive or a route where he's dead, and I'm more or less leaving that up to you. Everything else in the story goes the same for a while. I'd say the entire thing at Switzerland would go the same. Poco would just follow along, and Joseph and Cars would still have their fight. And by the whole thing, we get to the whole thing with Caesar, which could lead to Caesar maybe surviving. As for why it may be, it really depends on what the cast want to do here. It also kind of depends on Poco's belief system too. I think George II would be willing to go. Seeing how he also grew up without a father, he may actually go with Caesar. Not 100% sure, he may just listen to his wife and his son on this one, but I can't be 100% sure yet. Poco, on the other hand, I don't really remember much of his character. It was honestly kind of awful for me to do a video like this now when I don't remember much of Poco's character. But I'm going to make the assumption and say that he may actually help, similar to how Jonathan helped. And seeing how he did, and he was there to witness Will's death, I do believe it's very possible that Poco may want to save Caesar so he doesn't suffer the same fate as Will, which is another possibility. Caesar could actually live in this timeline. I'm not 100% sure on that. Even if George II, whether or not George II's alive or dead, I don't really think that matters with Caesar. It really just depends on what the cast feel more comfortable doing. And then by that point, everything goes the same. And I really think Poco would probably just die against Cars. By the end, I don't really think much would change until the final fight, where Poco would either die to Cars or would just die off screen years after the events of Battle Tendency, which is some possibilities to come out of it. Whether or not George II or Caesar are still alive, or both, I'll leave up to you. I personally think George II may just stay dead because it would probably make for good character development on Poco's behalf, and I would probably keep Caesar alive, kind of giving Poco some kind of redemption. And plus, I honestly feel like Caesar deserved better than just dying in part 2. That's just my opinion overall. I probably made a lot of my fans angry for saying that, because I know I got a big, passionate fan base for Georgia Second. Hope you guys take no offense for what I said about Georgia Second, but yeah. Let's talk about everything else, I guess. Now, if you want to talk about the future of the franchise, like 3 and onwards, it's hard to say how Part 3 would change. Part 4 also is kind of hard to say. Same goes to Part 5, and Part 6 is also kind of the same. Overall, it just depends on what the cast do after those parts. Like, it. I'm not going to go with the assumption that onwards, after that, we don't really know what Poco could do. For all I know, maybe Poco could have had a kid or a grandkid of his own who can continue his family lineage for past part 2. Maybe Caesar does live, and maybe Caesar can have Julius and Rosanna, and then that could lead to that whole stuff going the same, like in my other videos. Maybe you can go the route where George II lives, and maybe he plays a role in 3 and onwards. Maybe Lisa plays a role in 3 and onwards. Hard to say for certain. I really don't know how the later parts would change. I think there would be changes, obviously, but the changes wouldn't be super big. So overall, I think parts 3, 4, 5, and 6 could change depending how big Poco's role is. If Poco is able to save both George and Caesar, I think there would be a lot of changes to come out of the franchise. And also, if you want to go the route where he also has family, if he's able to save one of them and have the other one die, changes. I'd say there'd be more changes for Caesar to live than George II, in my opinion. So, yeah. If you want to go the route where he maybe has a family line of his own, maybe his family could have a busted enough hamon power or busted enough stands that they could actually help. If you want to go the route where none of that happens, then the story just goes the same, albeit Poco just gets more screen time, and his sister does too. So, overall, that's just it. Hope you enjoyed the video. This was a very interesting one, and I hope someone super into cats also enjoyed the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you for the next What If, or next video, because I'm not going to do a What If for the next one. Because my next video will be a versus battle. Just take a guess what will be in the comments. Alright, take care.